On this episode of Ask Dan, we're going to talk about Windows 10 TV and whether or not it will ever happen, and what's the status of the Microsoft ban. Stay tuned. Google is making Android TVs. Why doesn't Microsoft make Windows 10 TV? The question of smart TVs is a very interesting one. Obviously, there are a lot of choices on the market right now. LG is using the remnants of WebOS, and that's what I have, but I actually don't use it. Instead, I use my Xbox One as my smart TV, and I've never really been a fan of this technology or this idea of running apps, although I do appreciate having Netflix built into the TV is kind of cool. And sure, Google is on board here, and Apple has their Apple TV. Roku is also the big one out there. There's also, of course, Amazon. And you may be getting the drift here. It's a very competitive field. So the question is, what could Microsoft do here that is actually different? And that's the important question. Satya Nadella, whether you love him or hate him, has basically said when he goes into new categories, they have to be defining that category for the company. They don't want to step into a field that's super competitive and one that they can't really offer anything new. It's actually a very interesting point. If they do go make a Windows 10 TV, what's going to be so different about it compared to what's already on the market? Having said that, of course, Microsoft can leave the door open and contribute to this if they see some space where they can make a difference. But for right now, I think they're going to stick to Xbox. Don't forget, they don't really want to cannibalize the idea behind that device, which is if you go buy it for $189, not only do you get smart TV features, but you're going to get a full gaming console with a Blu-ray player. And I think that's actually a pretty good offer. What's the status of the Surface Connect to Type-C adapter? So earlier this year, during the Surface Pro announcement, we were told that there was going to be a Surface Connect to USB Type-C adapter that was going to allow power and data. And it was very cool. We even saw a dummy unit of it that was being tested and evaluated. Now, this is still in development. During the Surface Book 2 announcement, I spoke to Microsoft about this and was told it is still being worked on. And it's looking for a Q1 2018 release. Now, the reason for the delay is a little bit complicated. They're doing a lot of testing here and making sure the power draw isn't too much for the device and the adapter itself. They want to make sure it doesn't get hot and burn out. They also are testing it across many Surface devices. They want to go back as far as possible to include Surface Pro 3, Surface Pro 4, the new Surface Pro, Surface Book 2, and Surface Laptop. You get the idea here. There's a lot of testing going on. Interestingly, the biggest customer here appears to be enterprise and businesses who are switching over to USB Type-C peripherals faster than expected. So Microsoft is going to be working with them exclusively on this product, and it's unclear if it's going to be sold direct to consumers or available in, like, say, Best Buy, but you will probably be able to buy it directly from Microsoft and through the Microsoft Store. But look for this in 2018, assuming it's still on track, but last I checked, it was. Will Microsoft ever revisit the banned idea and release an improved version of it? Next to Windows Phone, we are asked this question a lot. That is, what is the status of Microsoft Band, their wearable fitness device that came out a few years ago and then had a sequel with Microsoft Band 2? Now, this is a really interesting category. Again, going back to, say, Windows TV and that concept, Microsoft is asking the question, what can it contribute to this field that's different from what's being done already? And can they actually be a leader in that field? Now, wearables are very complicated. I myself wear Fitbit, which I would say is probably the go-to brand for this category. Of course, you have Apple on the high end, and then in between there, you have a lot of Android Wear, which shifts between smartwatch features and some fitness. So the question is, where does Microsoft fit in there? Now, I would say the Microsoft Band was a very unique device, but it also didn't sell very well. Now, we can blame that a bit on marketing. After all, they didn't really sell it outside the United States and many other countries. It was also hard to find, although you could go to Best Buy and pick it up, but there was no advertising for it or commercials for it. And I think that's a legitimate complaint. They want to see there's sort of a grassroots thing and it was going to build up and sell, and it didn't. Now, I don't know if that was because it was just marketing or because people didn't like the device. It did have a high return rate and high failure rate. After all, those materials did break down. I personally know a few people that had to return theirs 2 or 3 times. So I think they're still experimenting with this field. Microsoft does a lot of internal experiments, and I think they have a lot of concepts that they're working on and testing internally, including filing patents on new devices. I also think they would like to get Windows 10 in some form on there. And with those changes coming to Windows 10 in 2018, including C Shell, Windows IoT, Windows 10 on ARM, and Windows Core OS, it's going to allow this modularity, and perhaps if battery life improves, it could actually put a form of Windows 10 on this device, in which case it could also run apps and better sync with your PC or smart device. As to whether Microsoft will actually do that, I don't know. They constantly evaluate these products to see if they're going to be valuable on the market, if they can actually make a difference. But right now, I don't expect to see any wearable from them until probably at least 2019 or later, but who knows what that Surface team is actually working on. So that does it for this week's episode. Remember, if you have a question, use hashtag AskDanWindows on Twitter, or go to our forums at Windows Central and you can ask me directly there. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. So there's a lot of testing to be involved. They're also working with enterprise and testing this out. The biggest customer they see for this will be businesses who are switching over to, I'm screwing this up. I want to do this over again. Sorry. Just pause it.